Trish and Rob McGregor welcome you to a place where all kinds of phenomena flourish. Voices whisper ancient secrets, signs and symbols are abundant. UFOs, ETs, ghosts, and even the dead move about freely. Here we meet authors, researchers, and investigators of the mysterious, the strange, and of the inexplicable anomalies that surround us. Step out of the everyday world and take a journey into the mystical underground.
All right, we'll get going again in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Mystical Underground. Thank you for joining us. This is Rob McGregor
and Trish McGregor
and our tech magician producer, John Posey. You can go to themysticalunderground.com where we make regular blog posts and where you can find out about our books. Our most recent nonfiction book is The Shift, Reports from the Mystical Underground. Trish's latest novel is White Crows. Rob's latest novel is Tulpas.
Aeon Karris is a leading transformational facilitator, a leadership consultant, and a master mystic. She's the founding director of Know the Self, a mystery school for modern-day living. For nearly 30 years, she's been a visionary of evolutionary consciousness, seeding new business initiatives and eco-communities to protect our future. Her extensive client list includes leading corporations, economists, elite businessmen, royals, and spiritual leaders in India, Japan, and the USA. She's the author of Synchronicity, Unlock Your Divine Destiny, a contributing author to Second Chances from Surviving to Thriving, and she serves on the board of the Coincidence Project, whose mission is to illuminate the invisible currents that connect us. Welcome, Aeon.
Welcome,
Good to
Aeon.
see you.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
So you told us before we went on air here that you've been traveling around the world. Are you promoting your book? And how do you do that? Do you have friends that live in different places you can stay with? And...
Yes and yes. So I'm promoting the new release of my book, Synchronicity. And so I've decided that for a whole year, I'm going to practice what I preach and live through synchronicity by being on the road and, also promoting the book, bringing it to people and places that I wouldn't normally. I'm kind of shy to share my work. So I'm pushing myself a little bit, getting out on the road. And also, since COVID and all the lockdowns, I feel a lot of disconnection has happened with my own network. So I'm restitching my golden network, visiting the communities that I helped form and people I love. It feels like, that feeling like, okay, there's never enough to like take a holiday or go visit all the people. And I realized, there's so many people in the world that I miss and I haven't seen in years. I'm going to go to them. So yes, I am visiting friends and family around the world while I promote my book. And I'm doing it in a synchronistic manner. So it's not a typical book tour where I've got like dates lined up everywhere. I'm letting it unfold and I'm letting spirit guide and direct me as I just engage and connect with people. And it's been really fun so far. So I'm enjoying it.
Well, travel itself is generates synchronicities because of all the uncertainties. You're not in a normal pattern doing the same thing over and over day after day. So actually we wrote a book called The Synchronicity Highway, which is about travel synchronicity. So you're probably having a few as you go along, no doubt.
Yeah. I actually had one. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go next. I'm just really trying to leave it out. It's really hard for me, by the way, because I'm a Virgo. I love to plan. I like to know, I want to know where I'm going to be sleeping, what's going to happen. And also I'm not doing it on a huge budget. So I don't want to be like staying in hotels and all of that because this is a year long, right? So it's but it's been really fun so far. Like my dreams have informed me. And then certain opportunities, certain people will call me. Like I had a dream about a bear. So I knew I was going somewhere cold. And then a few days later, someone invited me to take over their penthouse for a month through the holidays in Chicago. So that's how I ended up in Chicago. And then when I landed, someone mentioned Wisconsin, and I was like, wait, are we close to Wisconsin? And there's a community there I helped start 12 years back. So then I reached out to them. Then I ended up in Wisconsin with them exactly at the 12-year anniversary from we started the community 12 years ago, but it was the exact week that I was here. It was right in time where they needed me, and I needed that. It was just like this beautiful synchronistic experience. So that's how
What kind
I'm
of community?
where I'm needed.
What kind of community?
They're an intentional community. It's it's called the Bridget Center. A couple purchased a 150-year-old church from the Catholic Church and turned it into like a permaculture center, a learning center, a community center where they're doing self-development and managing the land, stewarding the land. So
cool.
I arrived right on Bridget's Day, like right before Bridget's Day, which was the first time I came out there was to help them create the governance of their community. And so it was like the perfect timing with what was happening. They're revisiting everything that we had started 12 years ago. So it was just all like beautifully orchestrated, something I would never choose to come to this area at this time of the year. They were on my list of people I love and places I wanted to see because it's been 12 years since I've been here. But I was thinking in the spring or summer, right? But
dead of winter.
Dead of winter, I went and we had a great time.
Yeah. So I think before we go on any further about synchronicity, we should, and just in case people are dropping in that might just kind of stumble on, what is the mystical underground? And so it might be also saying, what is synchronicity? Easiest explanation is meaningful coincidence, 2 words basically. And oddly enough, I ran into somebody who I believe was a psychiatrist. I had a friend who's in a facility right now because he attempted to commit suicide. He's has Parkinson's and it's in bad shape, and he wanted to end it all. And so when I came there to see him, there was a psychiatrist arrived a few minutes later to talk to him. And in the discussion, I just asked her, do you know what synchronicity is? And she said no. And I was really surprised, a psychiatrist not knowing the word synchronicity, because she was talking about, well, what church do you go to? A whole different perspective. And so, so I think many of us who are, I guess, involved in this shift and this awareness that's going on, take for granted that people know what we're talking about, but not always.
True, very true.
Hey, you were explaining your time code before the breakup here.
Yeah.
So can you explain it? What you mean by time code?
I call synchronicity a time code because for me, it's a band of energy that we're moving through. It's a frequency band. And synchronicities to me create time codes. So for example, when you have a string of synchronicity, it's a marker in time that's kind of guiding you towards something, right? It's signposts along a path that you're on in your life. And so it's like a wave that we're my dog's crying. I hope you can't hear that. It's like a wave that you're riding. And I've noticed that throughout my life, I've had a ton of synchronicities like you both have. And when I look back, they're all markers of where like life spirit is directing me. And so I see them as a different way of tracking time. And so for me, they become time codes. It's like when you're in the frequency band, you're living in a peak flow state and life just happens for you, like without trying. That's why I'm on this world tour without planning and all of that, because I know that my soul, spirit, the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, has a better plan for me than my small, limited human mind. So my mind has fears, it has conditionings, it has, preferences that are often limiting what I feel life is trying to give me. So I'm like, I need it to be like this, and spirit's like, but it's like this, and it's so huge and beautiful. So I want to be open to receiving and really tracking where spirit's guiding me. So it's a time code, because it's a frequency that we live in, and time expands when you're in synchronistic moments, or it speeds up, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And,
So
and
I-
just real quick, since we did have some network issues, and we were previously in about 7 minutes in. Trish, you'd also asked about who the Royals were. You
Oh,
want to
yeah.
throw that one back in there? Yeah.
So explain who the royals were that you visited. That was interesting.
Yeah. So I never like to name names of my high profile clients, but I did work with royal families in India, a few of them. Um, Basically on large land holdings for permaculture projects and eco community projects that I was helping them manage their lands. But I also ended up doing a lot of healing work with them, becoming a counselor and a seer and channeling for them. So got to know a lot of interesting people through their network as well.
How long were you in India?
I lived in India for 8 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you had lived there.
Yeah, and I just came back. I just visited again at the end of last year. I was there for 3 months. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So on the other side of the royals would be the untouchables. Are there still people that are referred to as untouchables? And
Yes,
what are
and
their
I work
lives
with
like?
them also.
Okay.
Actually, I just spent a few weeks working on a documentary film. A friend of mine has been doing there's gypsies up in Pushkar in the north, and they're called I'm blanking on the name right now, cowbelly people. And so she had done a movie on them 20 years ago, and we went back there to see if we could find them and do like a story on where they've been over the last 20 years. And we did, we found them. So we spent 3 weeks like traveling around on the back of their motorcycles, going into the
wow.
camps. I mean, they live in tents in the middle of the desert, and they're beautiful people. Um, they work with, they're snake charmers, and they work with Kundalini energy and dancing. They're mystics, poets, they're artists. But they're very, very poor, and they're nomadic, but now they're kind of camped there. So it's pretty wild when I'm in India, because one day I will be with the royal family and the next day with the untouchables out in the camps. And I show them my photos and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "This is so fun."
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And the
I love
farmers, I work with a lot of farmers there as
yeah.
well.
I love how you point out that this is a quote, synchronistic moments allow us to see, if only briefly, the golden threads that stitch our lives together through time, space, and dimensions. So you're right that synchronicity allows us to glimpse a bigger tapestry of our lives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm very aware that we are so much more than our human forms, right? Like in the
Mhm.
human reality, we minimize everything to this 3D realm, and like a job and the conditions of our government, and what we've been trained to do, per se, or like jobs, just keeping up with life as it is on this planet. But when we allow ourselves to really access the magic of our biology, we are supernatural creatures who exist on many dimensions, just living through a human form. And so when we get in the flow of synchronicity, we start tapping into what we truly are, the magic of what we are. And I believe, I mean, for me, I start to visually see different when I'm in a flow of synchronicity. Like I start seeing all the threads that connect us. I see that tapestry, and it's so magical. And then I wonder why, we choose to dumb it down, because we have so much capacity. So I'm on a mission to help people remember their true nature and really tap into like the next evolution of their biology, because it's not just some of us. I mean, some of us are still open to it, or we're actively using those muscles, but everybody has that faculty and that ability to use their supernatural faculties. So, and I think it now more than ever, with where the world is going, we need to exercise them so they don't atrophy and we become, so robotic and mundane, right?
Now, Amelia or Aeon, in 2015, you lost your home to a devastating fire. Explain how that event transformed your life.
Oh gosh, yeah, that was a big one. I've had many devastating losses in my life, but that one was different in the sense that my other losses were very personal and private, things I couldn't really speak about. Actually, I had been living in the US. I had just returned from India, only a year at that point, and I had come back to the States because of a devastating issue in India, where I was actually poisoned by gurus. And
God.
yeah, my life was threatened. And I came back to kind of heal. And, that was a situation that I wasn't able to speak about, right? I couldn't talk to the community. I was in shock. I was in trauma. And I came back to the States and I was like, okay, I'm going to rebuild here. And I really follow the directives of spirit, like what it's asking me to do. And I had just done a large event in Oakland, a outdoor meditation in Oakland called Bless the Lake. And after that, I had death threats, and it was so weird because it was a meditation event, and it was like, what is going on? Why does this keep happening to me? And then just a few months later, my house kind of blew up with all of us in it. Like there was a community household, 6 of us, and we got out just in the nick of time. But here's the interesting silver lining for me, because it was so public and people actually knew about the death threats because it was on Facebook and had like blown up out of proportion. The community came out in my support. And all of a sudden, even though I've had a lot of tragedy in my life, I've kind of walked through fire time and again. With having the gifts I have in this kind of world seems to be a threat to some people. But at that time, I had so much community support, and it was on the evening news. And suddenly it was like a trauma that everyone understood. And so I had more support than I'd ever had in my life at that moment. I really saw how community, how much I needed that kind of love and support. And so, and then I realized I don't need anything else, really. I mean, everything I needed was already inside me. I didn't need the things or tools.
But you had lost a lot, or your computer, your clothes.
Oh, I lost everything.
You had pajamas, right? And
I was in my pajamas, no underwear. It was so embarrassing. I was just like, what? I mean, the amount of synchronicities that were happening before, during, and after the fire, it was mind blowing. So I knew that it was like Spirit's way of saying, you are protected, you are guided. Like, yes, maybe what you're doing is like triggering dark forces, or so, it's shining a light on this sort of cosmic dance that we're in. But I also saw that I am so loved and protected, and I guess I really needed to see that. I needed to have a tangible experience of that was that public, for me to heal some deeper wounds from my childhood and from what had just happened to me in India.
Well, why were people threatening you with death in India?
It's something that's followed me since I'm a child. It's not new for me. I've had many death attempts on my life, and I know that sounds so weird to hear. I mean, there's all I can say is that for some reason, when you have the ability to see things that are in the shadow that people don't want looked upon, you become a threat. Which, it's not that I'm trying to see things, it's just an ability that I somehow was innately born with. And I grew up in a Christian what I would call a cult that had a lot of dark forces attached to it. So there was a lot of bad things happening to the kids in my church that I could see, and somehow the fact that I saw it and was cognizant of it, and I wasn't susceptible to a lot of manipulation. And it was similar with the gurus. I was working with them; they were my business partners, and I thought my friends. But then backstage, I was very aware of some underhanded things, and in India specifically, like they deal with things very differently than in the US. Like if they don't like how things are going, they just want to take you out. They find ways to take you out, whether it was, whether it's black magic, because I have been in these kind of, because of the gifts I carry and the work that I do, and how, when you have mystical abilities, different people are aware of you, and you're in a different arena. So it was different types of initiations that I needed to walk through. Sometimes I think, why? I don't understand. I'm just this like nobody trying to like spread love and light and make a better world, and why? And then I was like, oh, that's why, because it's disrupting what they're trying to do, which is, control and manipulate. So
right. So you've had experiences with dark matter, more or less.
a lot.
Yeah, and so
I've been formed. They are my greatest teachers.
Right. Yeah. So this is kind of a synchronicity for us, because before you arrived, we were talking about Pearl Jam's new album coming out, which is called Dark Matter. So,
okay, Rob.
Well, it's a big issue. Yeah, something we should all be aware of.
Yeah. You want to hear the first 4 lyrics of this?
No, yeah, say yes.
Oh yeah, let us know.
Steal the light from our eyes. Take my blood from my heart. We're in all this dark matter. Take the breath from my chest.
Wow.
That's what it's trying to do. Interesting. I
I'm
mean,
gonna
and we've got like CERN.
I'm gonna have to post this episode on the 10 Club forums. That's the official Pearl Jam forum. So
Okay,
anyway.
all right. I hope it's okay to steal their or quote them.
You're gonna get a copyright
It's
infringement.
fair use. They're wanting to promote a new album, so
Yeah. And it started because their album cover looks like a bit like your book cover.
Do you have it there? I want to see it.
Can you see it?
Oh no. Oh yeah, wait.
Pull it back.
Oh, I see. It's a black hole.
Right. It's kind of swirl.
Yeah, that's a black hole, wherever all the light gets refracted around it.
Yeah,
so in my cover, coming back to the light.
That's a little different, John.
And to be clear, that wasn't the album cover. That was just the first frame of the video. The album cover actually does look a little more like and I'll see if I can pull it up and screen share it here in
okay.
Done. But go ahead, but finish your thought, please.
Well, yeah, so the light shines in dark space, right? The stars shine brightest in the darkest spaces, right? And this is what the cover of my book shows. I did the best I could to show a depiction of what the soul looks like when it's illuminated and embodied in form. And the reason I wrote this book is to share with people how to take dominion back over their own spiritual anatomy, because so much of the darkness on the planet, the energy that feeds off our light, that wants us to enslave us or wants us to stay, dumb and broke and miserable, whatever we want to call that, that energy tends to knock us out of our field so that it can utilize our field. So when we're in fear, when we're in distress, when we're in disease, this energy can feed off, like a parasite feeds off of our light. And so I'm on a mission to help people restructure their energy grids so that they can understand how to be a force of nature, how to be a co-creator with nature, how to remember and recreate their own capacity to direct, and what did we come here to do? I mean, we're living at a really important time in history where I believe all of us are needed, and we each single individuation of us has a gift inside us that's needed to shine forth. And in order to allow our gifts to shine, we need to first understand how to contain our energy. So people can have, you hear people having spiritual awakenings all the time, and that was me since a young age, but I wasn't able to really hold my light because, again, another dark force, another trauma, another event would happen to me where I couldn't really hold my light. And I do believe that's why I've had so many intense situations. That's why I was saying they are my greatest teachers, because it's made me get stronger and stronger in how to contain my energy and stay embodied as a soul in the body.
Well, now, as a result of this fire and this journey you've been on, you've developed a particular synchronicity method. Can you, about the keys, can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so the synchronicity method is what I was just explaining. It's a guided practice that there's protocols, and I explain it in key number 3 of my book. And there's a free downloadable guided practice you can get on my website to experience it. It's an experiential practice. You can think about it and understand it cognitively. That's one level. But when you do it, that's when your soul gets the codes and understands how to hold itself in the physical form, and it starts to recreate your reality. So there's 4 main protocols of how to align your energy and how to frame your energy, so you can really see the difference between who and what you are versus the other. So we're individuating for the sake of understanding how to access source. And that's really important. I think there's so much spiritual bypassing going on, and people reach higher dimensions, but they're leaving their body. And when you leave your body to astral travel or to even have psychic vision, you're often leaving your lower chakras open for other entities to host. And I'm on a mission to help people understand, no, you need to be in the driver's seat and take up your space and shine brighter. And that is the synchronicity method. So when you get into the frequency band and you start energizing yourself in this way, then a lot of synchronicities happen, and you're in that co-creation with the universe, and you're starting to realize you don't have to effort so much. Things just unfold and happen for you or with you and for you.
We've always kind of argued over time, Trish and I, whether you can actually create synchronicity. I think you can, but not very. I don't think you can create a specific synchronicity, because that would be cause and effect, I would think. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you can, I guess, or you can explain it. You put your mind.
You can create the conditions where synchronicity is more likely to happen. The conditions in your life. You can be more open, more receptive, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and you can make them up. Like, you can make meaning out of just recognizing every little pattern. Like, you see people get into that hyper awareness state, and it's very ungrounded and kind of like, oh, it's a sign. It's like, okay, like
calm down.
Calm down. Like, take a deep breath. Like, let's go hug a tree. Let's get your feet in the earth, right?
Have some coffee.
Yeah. I don't know. That might make it worse.
Yeah, that make it worse. Have wine.
That would make it worse. Yeah. So for me, I agree with both of what you're saying. It's a slightly different. It's like we want to get in the time code of synchronicity. So synchronicity isn't something that's like outside of us happening. It's like, how do we get in flow? How do we create the conditions within us to attune to synchronicity? Because life should be that effortless, that it should be that magical. If we're living in our true nature, then life should, like, I expect synchronicities. I'm not expecting how they come or what they are. I just know that I can trust that they will be there
Uh-huh.
if I'm in alignment.
Mhm. So how do you distinguish between a synchronicity that guides us forward to one that is serving as a warning that the path you're following could be dangerous or unwelcome?
Yeah, I love that question. I grappled with that a lot, even while I was writing the book. I share a story about Mr. Fox and all the foxes, and I was starting to get like in that like ungrounded space, like, oh my God, the fox is a trickster and it's a bad omen, and like, what does it mean? And what I'm realizing is that synchronicities don't mean yes or no. It's
Mhm.
they just are like they're just showing strings of events, and I don't think it means like go down this road or don't go down that road. It could, depending on how you interpret it, but we have our own spiritual vocabulary of what signs, symbols, pattern recognition means for us, right? Like if you're the 1111 person, or the, whatever that is, when you see those signs, it lights you up and sort of illuminates your path to go in that direction. For me, I have those, number signposts and things like that, but it doesn't mean yes or no. It just means like, oh, I'm in the flow. Pay
Uh-huh.
attention, pay attention, pay attention. Things are unfolding. So I've had a number of very dark synchronicities, if we can call it that, like things that were super synchronistic, especially like in relations, like the one I share in the book, which wasn't dark, but it wasn't necessarily enjoyable.
Uh-huh.
But it was karmic. It was necessary. I grew a lot from it. It was magical. It was serendipitous at times, and at other times it was, some of my hardest lessons. Adam and I lost a child. We got pregnant, and then I had a miscarriage right after I launched the first edition of the book. And ironically, 7 years later, we just met in Florida a few months back, and just to kind of see each other after this whole thing. And all the synchronicities were there too. It was just whenever we're near each other, it's so magical, like everything's unfolding. Does it mean he's my partner? No, I don't believe it does. I mean, I think it
Mhm.
can be confusing, right? Some people can be like, well, it means you're meant to be together. I'm like, well, no, that's not what it means for me. It just means that we have a soul connection, and
Uh-huh.
we're on a journey together, and we're learning from each other.
So
How does
using
he
your
interpret it? I'm
Um,
curious.
that's a good question. I think for him, it's been a bit overwhelming for him
Uh-huh.
to understand. It's too much, almost like he wants it to stop, because it can make him feel very ungrounded and manic, I
Mhm.
think, when there's so many synchronicities so fast. I'm used to them.
Mhm.
Like, I've been trained like this. I've been having this my whole life. It kind of happens wherever I go with a lot of people. So it's not, for me, it's not like, whoa, what, but for a lot of people, it
Yeah,
is. And I
it's
think for
true.
him, he's still grappling with what it means for him.
Yeah.
And I think we all have to find that meaning for ourselves. We can't
Mhm.
blanket it and say, well, because these strings of events happened and they're so complex, it means you're supposed to do this. No, it's just that they're complex, they're multi-layered.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot there. How does it make you feel?
So
That
so
we
you
still have choice, is what I'm
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So using some of the terminology of your book, so he would not
Oh.
you would not consider him as a soulmate, but he might be in your monad. Would that be the case?
Yeah, it could
And
be.
that
Yes.
can lead us to an explanation of what a monad is.
Yeah. So the monad, um, okay, so I should just back up and say that this information comes from deep meditation, not from something I read, or it's just my own interpretation of what spirit has shown me in deep
Mhm.
states of meditation. The monad is the oversoul that is comprised of your soul group. So it's a collective consciousness. And to me, my monad speaks to me, and I speak to it, and I speak for it. So I'm on a mission to restitch my golden network. That's part of why I'm on this world tour. It's finding those in my soul group, those soulmates of mine that we're here to do. We have a mission on earth, and we're here to remember each other at the soul level. And when we are together, and when we meditate together, and when we're in each other's presence, we elevate each other's consciousness. And within a monad, there's 12 groups of 12, and some of those souls may or may not be on the earth at this time, incarnate and human. They might be in other star systems. They might have been here and are deceased. You may know them, you may not know them, but you can always connect to them through meditation and through doing the practice. So like the cover of my book, when you form yourself like this, which is the synchronicity method, when you illuminate your soul in your heart and you take ownership of your frame, you can start to communicate with your monad, and your monad starts to communicate with you. And that's when we start really building this beautiful golden lattice work around the earth, and really living into that. It sounds very utopian, but there's a golden age. I believe that's possible when we live in that frequency. I've experienced it. I haven't been able to sustain it with others yet, because I think that we're still working through a lot of shadow. But more and more people are able to hold that frequency. And I believe that when at least 12 of us, whether we're in the same soul group or not, when 12 of us can hold that frequency and just illuminate, do my synchronicity method, what I call the synchronicity method, and hold the frequency together, it shifts things for the whole monad. And once one monad open, or once one group of 12 opens, the whole monad comes online. And I believe this is the rainbow bridge that many people speak about, and what steps us into that new earth architecture. I believe it's an architecture of light.
Okay, you said 12 groups of 12. Does everybody have a monad that's 12 groups of 12?
Yes.
That's 144 people. That's a lot of people.
That's your soul group.
Okay.
And then there's 12 monads that are going to awaken to what is the 144,000, which are the light bearers of the planet right now, that are here, I believe, guiding this ship home, guiding this evolutionary process. So that's what I've understood.
Well, what's interesting about that number, as far as connected to an individual, is Facebook, Zuckerberg had said a long time ago that any individual could only be and I don't think he was the one that came up with this. I'm pretty sure he was quoting some research, some previous research, but that as an individual, you could only be acquainted with roughly a little over 100 people. So that's interesting that number number resurfaces like that. So anyway,
yeah, that is interesting.
There's a Swami I worked with, his community in India, and he's built many communities around the world, and anytime it reached 125 to 150, he would create a new one. And I was wondering why that was. And I read a lot of his books as I was working with them, and I saw that for him it was after 125, between 125 150, so again the 144 number, it would get so political and the community would turn on itself. So he always started another one. He never let them get more than that in one community. And I thought that was fascinating.
That totally makes sense. And actually and anyways, yeah, but very specifically, it's just the fact that unless you are way out on the spectrum somewhere, there's no way that you can be familiar with. I mean, even 100 people sounds crazy, but once you get over that, how can you possibly have any interesting interaction with these people? You simply can't know them. You can't know them personally, is the point, I think. So
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Isn't it the Jehovah Witnesses who believe, or it's some religious belief?
Many.
Yeah,
many
that
religions.
144,000
Yeah.
people will be taken out. Yeah.
Right.
I only found that out after I published the book. I had a number of people tell me that. And then I realized, yes, I think the Bible speaks about it. The Jehovah
Uh,
Witnesses, the Jews, the Indians also. I
hmm,
think they call it more the Thousand Sons or something, but
uh,
it's all the 144 is the sacred
right.
number, and it's represented in the flower of life symbol also, which I share in the book. Is that that geometry formed for me when I was in the meditation to show me the lattice work and show me how it was all connected and what we look like as souls, as spiritual beings, and
Hmm.
how we're connected and how we can send a homing beacon basically by illuminating ourselves to magnetize those that we're looking for. And when we're in the presence of our soul group, we just feel such a kinship. And things just start to magnetize towards us, like things start working in that sort
Uh,
of golden network
Yeah.
way.
So you're able to make contact through meditation, but are there other ways of doing it too? Because I had an experience quite a while ago in Greece in Mykonos where I was on LSD, and I had this experience where suddenly I was in contact with all of these beings that were related to me at a higher level, and there it was almost like they're in a stanza of an auditorium, and they suddenly started cheering, and I heard the words, "You're finally waking up."
Yeah, that's very common.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
very common way that they show up. And yeah, LSD or other psychedelics or plant medicines
mhm.
can bring you to those places with the right intention.
right,
So clearly you were ready to meet them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like to do it in a sober state because I find that, and it's not that I'm against plant medicines, I've done them. They have their place. But what I found is that if we use plant medicines or, psychedelics to reach those states, then we lose our own ability often to do it in a sober state, and then we don't allow it to live through us in the waking state. So it becomes like a split of consciousness where it's only happening when you're high or when you're under the influence instead of when you're awake walking down the street. And so one of the reasons I started the mystery school was to help people build that bridge so that they can be awake while they're awake,
Mhm.
But I've
while
known
they're
people,
walking through the world.
but I've known
Mhm.
people who have used psychedelics to blow open that door
It
initially.
does blow open the
Yeah,
door, but the problem is, um, they need the medicine to go
right.
there. They're
Uh-huh.
not able to do it from a sober state, and then they get kind of hooked or addicted to the peak states, and
Uh-huh.
they're unable to really use that information in their daily life. So I'm really here on a mission to help people take, so if you could talk to the council, Rob, every day, what I call the council,
Yeah.
your soul group, your monad, every day, and be informed by them, how beautiful would your life be if you knew that you didn't have to do LSD, you could just,
Hmm.
Yeah.
tap your ear and boom, they're
Right.
right in front of you. This is the reality I'm here to ground because
Mhm.
it's very possible. And often, the plant medicines and psychedelics, they do help open that bridge and show us that it's there, but our physical brain and body need it to be here for us
Mhm.
to own it. Otherwise, we start to split our consciousness. So anyone I've worked on who's done a lot of plant medicines or smokes pot regularly, they somehow have two tracks going and they're unable to bridge. So it's like they have their high state and their sober state, and they're losing the receptors of the bridge. And that concerns me. I feel like we should use it in moderation to open some of those doors if they're calcified and need to get open, but let's practice from a sober, healthy state so we can really embody it and make the change here and not live in the ethers, right?
Hmm.
Like to really embody it in the physical form.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. I mean, this was uh, May of 1975 when I had that experience. So it was a while
No,
ago.
I don't think you do it every weekend, but
He was quite
you
young.
might.
I
Have
was
you talked to them since?
maybe in dreams. I seem to have an
Yeah.
active dream life where I am in contact with other beings.
Well, maybe now that we're having this conversation, they'll be back in touch.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah.
you're ready to receive
Well,
them.
also, I
Right.
think you do it through fiction too, Rob. You know,
Oh, for sure.
creatively,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, that's where
Yeah.
when I'm in a creative mode, synchronicities pop up, like working on something about World War II in France with the French resistance, and suddenly we turn on television and there's a movie about the same thing, and providing me more information that I needed, and it wasn't that I looked it up, it just was there,
Yeah, exact
Yeah.
timing. So that's the time code. You're in the flow, and when we're in the flow, creativity abounds. I mean, it is
Yeah.
everywhere. It's so creative, and that's what's so magical about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
John, were you gonna
no, but yeah, I had a question, but I think you guys went
John's
down.
like the voice of God here.
I'm sorry. Well, no, we call it's the disembodied voice of the producer, but
Yeah, right.
so
Yes, God.
that's what we call. No, and is very much not so. But I
Saving
think
all
the moment
bandwidth.
I think the moment that everybody's been waiting for is, and let's see if I can successfully screen share with this template. So we're gonna go with Eon's book cover first.
Okay.
So let's see if this works.
Yeah, it's such a
Oh,
pretty
cool.
cover.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys see that? Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
All right, we
Okay,
got that.
it.
All right, so
Yeah, it's nice.
now let's stop sharing, and this is the
The Pearl Jam cover.
the Pearl Jam cover.
Wow.
Oh,
Oh, that's
okay. So
incredible.
Yeah,
that's
that's cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Now there's a
Yeah.
synchronicity in action.
Dark matter.
So
That's great.
Dark matter,
But
but
yeah.
it's light in the center though.
Yeah.
Yep. Surrounded.
Yeah,
Yep. So, so yeah, I think that is an interesting, because
That
that is the
is.
first thing that when I was starting to put some stuff together this morning, getting ready for the show, I saw the book cover and I was like, I saw this like 3 days ago or 4 days ago now. It's a new Pearl Jam cover. So
That's so cool. I didn't even know Pearl Jam was still.
there's still a thing. And
Doing
actually,
it.
if you're gonna be in Chicago in August, they're playing Wrigley Field 2 nights in a row. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wrigley Field. Wow.
Yep.
They still attract a large audience, huh?
They do.
Wow. Yeah,
they do. But no, I thought that was interesting because that same kind of like particle field, which Eon was saying was is kind of the I guess the representation of the soul. So that's cool.
Yeah.
See,
Well, I
Eon,
think
you could go down and work with them.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. I mean, we need to be aware of the particle fields because as we know, science is speeding up and evolving, and with CERN's, particle colliders all over the world, there's thousands of them. They are opening dark matter and other anomalies of our space, and I believe that it's extremely important for us to know how to hold ourselves and our spiritual frame so that as the world shifts, because it's going to shift and get weirder and weirder and weirder. Clearly, we have, disclosure happening of what's really been going on backstage, and to know your sovereignty and know how to navigate your own cockpit and what you're responsible for, because we're not responsible for anything outside of our system. Many empaths, people who are on the spiritual path, are very empathic, and they're kind of taking everything in, right? They're processing everything in the world through their system, and we need to learn how to build up our boundaries and not do that, and really understand what's ours to master and let go of, and what's not ours, and really build up the the actual anatomical boundary,
Do you think
so that we're not so permeable.
do you think a monad can have ETs?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Mine does. Yours does.
Yeah, true. That's kind of what I figured.
Okay, yeah. And who were we? I mean, where did we come from, right?
Right,
So,
exactly. Yeah, we're all aliens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Aeon, so you're traveling around the country and the world, and as you're doing that, you're having new experiences all the time. But in key 3, called slow down to speed up, you suggest that it's not necessarily a good idea to be open to new experiences all the time. Can you explain the dichotomy there?
In the context of what I was saying in that key, it's about, we all have kind of ADD as a species. Like, we've been trained by our phones to be like stimulated all the time,
Mhm.
and to take in more stimulation. It's very hard for us to like pause and just, take a long breath, even here, right? Like, it would be an awkward silence if nobody was talking for 5 minutes. But it's those moments of really slowing down ourselves, slowing down our heart rate, slowing down our breath, our mind, when the answer comes. So like in your creative writing project, you stopped writing and you went to watch TV, probably to like relax, and then the answer
Yeah.
was there, right?
Right.
Like, the answer that it just enriched your creativity tenfold. Or I know we all experience this when, we're working and we're kind of stuck and we don't have anything to say and we need to take a walk and we need to get up. And it's in those moments when we're taking a break, when we're walking on the beach, when we're staring at the stars,
Taking a
thinking of
shower.
nothing,
Yeah.
taking a shower,
Right.
it's in those moments where the genius strikes. And
Right.
that's the idea or the creative spark that gives rise to the next evolution of your work, or something that you're going to put out in the world that speeds you up. But if you constantly sat at the computer and kept like forcing yourself to chop
Yeah.
away, or just kept bouncing around from like shiny object to shiny object, you're missing the spirit gift. Like I said in the beginning, like that gift that's right in front of you, spirit's trying to give it to you, and you're just busying yourself, not giving yourself the space to receive it. So
Even Einstein took naps. Before he came upon relativity, he was right at the brink, and then he took a nap, woke up, and he knew what to say and
Yeah.
what it was.
It's always that. I think all intelligent people know that it's in the breaks and in the lifestyle of taking care of the body. The body is so intelligent, like it knows, and we override it all the time. Like, we constantly use our brain to override all the other intelligences that are trying to communicate with us. So really slowing down, and in this case, doing key 3 is about the synchronicity method and how do you slow down. So take 10 minutes a day to do the method. You can meditate, but this isn't an active meditation. It's an activation more than a meditation. Like, it'll put you in a meditative state, but it's really a practice to tune your spiritual muscles and clear your, like, do spiritual hygiene to clean the energy that you've picked up, to get back to your natural state, to power up your innate intelligence. And that takes some time. So, if you do it 10 minutes a day for a month, I guarantee you will be a different person at the end. Like, you will have a different experience of reality. You will have a different experience of your relationships. Like, you'll see things differently. You'll see the world differently, and synchronicities will be off the chart.
Well, and real quick, I'm a software developer by day, and so this is my side gig. But that is a huge thing in computer science, is pattern matching, and it really is I think a big thing with synchronicities is just opening up and calming down and recognizing allowing the computer that we carry around in our head, to make those to match those patterns. because they're out there. Absolutely. That's a big part of how we have the technology we have now. Also, what's being called AI right now, not artificial intelligence, just a lot of pattern matching. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say something about that, because for me, synchronicity isn't just pattern matching, although that's how we interpret it. For me, the synchronicity as the time code, it's the wave, right? We're like surfing tsunamis when we're in synchronicity time. And so it's not about the synchronicity itself, but where it's taking us. So when we allow it to flow, we're going to have extreme creativity. We're going to be enjoying our life so much more. It gets so much more meaningful, so much more magical. It opens doors that we didn't even know existed in terms of connections to people, opportunities for our own personal growth and development. And we start finding that we're here for a bigger reason than we can even talk
Yep.
about the
It's
soul
a
mission.
quantum wave.
Well,
in a
and
sense.
Yeah.
yeah, well, and I mean, I think it is just, I think the pattern matching is just recognizing that you're in, that something's going on, because, and Rob, I think, like what's the license plate story you've told in the past, or
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah.
Being
is a good example of what,
Yeah.
kind of what, more of what I'm talking about. But,
so
Yeah.
I was taking two people to the Miami airport,
This is
and
great.
yeah, one of them, they had come from Jamaica, and the man had a little New Age church there. I can't think of the name of the little town, the coast where he was doing that, but so he was pretty far out there, and he was always in this spiritual mode. And so when we were driving, this was when I would last see those two in my life, probably. It was a very intense spiritual conversation, and this car passes us, and it says Zen 665. And he points, what is his name? I can't think of his name now. He points out and said, wouldn't it be something if Zen 666 appeared? Within 2 minutes, Zen 66 appeared on a license plate passing us. I mean, and then like 2 years later, I saw that license plate again.
Wow. Must have been the same guy.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like it was a different car though, which, I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe the
He
same
did
license.
keep the plates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. But
Yeah, I love
Maybe
that story.
someone to be aware of or to
Yeah.
run from. I don't know.
right. Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Very
So-
cool.
Yeah. So in your everyday world, where things are kind of normal, you're not meditating or anything, are there things that make you angry? And if so, how do you deal with anger?
Ooh, I like that question. If anyone from my past could hear this, they'd be like, yeah, she's angry. Especially the men. But yeah, of course, there are things that make me angry. Anger to me is one of I would say it's a superpower of mine, because it's a catalyst. It's a big catalyst for me. When I get angry, I feel it's spirit's way of like lighting a fire underneath me to do something to create change. I mean, I wrote this book out of a state of anger in a lot of ways. Like I need people, like shaking the world, like, please understand this, like we're in a desperate need. And but what was your question? How do I manage it? Yeah.
Yeah, and
How do you deal
how
with
do you
it?
deal with it? And
How do I deal with it? Well, yeah, I have a lot of ways to deal with it. Depends on the level of anger. But it has been one of my greatest teachers and instigators, and I like to transmute it as fast as possible, but that's not always the case. So, I need to feel it. I need to let it out. I do not direct anger at anybody. I think that's a misuse of power and very dangerous, especially for someone like me who carries a lot of energy. Like if I direct my anger, I feel it's dangerous to the other person and to myself. learned that the hard way. So for me, if I need to express anger, yeah, I did martial arts for years. That really helped. And then I got to a point where I didn't feel that angry anymore. I sat in meditation for a year, like almost 8 hours a day,
Oh my
seeing
God.
red. I was so angry. Yeah. And just kept praying and praying on my knees, like, take this from me, like, help me, what do I do with this? I need to transmute this.
Uh-oh.
It's what has enabled basically all my work, all the communities I've created, everything I've done has been an expression of me transmuting anger. Because it comes from deep-seated pain, things that atrocities that I've seen that I just can't stand for anymore. And it pushes me to a level to create. So I would say to anyone who's experiencing anger as much as I have, that it is a calling and we need to pay attention to it. We cannot run from it. You can only it only hurts us. Like it hurt my body a lot to not release the anger. And you never know when it's going to heal. Like I had been angry, like 20, 30 years for a few different topics until now I can say I'm in a state of peace around that. Like I've accepted it, I've understood it, and I'm not fighting because the fighting didn't really work. But what really helps me is finding a vehicle to create change. Because if you're really angry, it's because you have a solution for something that other people don't have. So it means you're supposed to speak. So for me, it was learning how to speak when I felt silenced all my life, all my childhood and young adult. I felt like I didn't have a voice. I couldn't speak. I felt every time I was going to speak, I was going to get killed. So I had to overcome a lot of fear because I saw things that people didn't want seen or spoken about. So finding ways to the work I do with leaders and, helping people to master their energy is because of that. I don't want them to misuse it. So I find ways to do something positive with it,
Oh, that's good.
But sometimes it seems it's just a good release, to let it go, but then to release it, but then immediately forget it or get away from it, and move into a calm state. And after having that, experience.
Well, if you can, then that's great. That's not deep-seated anger. That's just like pissed off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
my anger
Trish
is
and
not.
I know about that.
I don't get angry frivolously generally. Like I'm very slow to anger. My anger is something like ancient, old. It's like thousands of years old. Like when I'm angry, I have the rage of Kali. Like I've got thousands of years behind me of so that's a different kind of anger, right? And I think a lot of women carry that rage, and we're seeing it, right, with everything that's going on, especially in Palestine and Israel right now. Like a lot of female rage is out, and we need to heal it, and the women need to speak their anger. We need ways to be heard because we have been silenced for thousands of years, and it hasn't been safe for us to express. But now I believe we're at a time where women need to rise into leadership more than ever. The feminine leadership, the feminine wisdom, whether it's coming through a man or a female, it needs to rise up because that unconditional love, that those solutions that that connect us heart to heart are what's needed right now. We don't need to, bomb each other, right? So I think we're at a time where we need to learn to manage our anger. But I have done workshops, I've taken them, and I also lead them to get people to really release rage, where we slam, yoga mats on the ground, or, like we find ways, martial arts, I mentioned earlier, breaking boards, to just get it out because it sticks in the body, and we need to get it out.
So we're coming
and sometimes all it takes is Zoom. Just Zoom not acting as expected.
That's
so.
true. They go,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the digital world can be very helpful and very
Technology's great when it works as
Yeah,
expected. But
right.
go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah, so we're coming to the end of our hour here. I just have one more question. Is it a lot of work to practice your synchronicity method, and how long does it take to get results?
No, it's not a lot of work at all. So if you practice, 10, 11 minutes, if you're starting out, you probably, the more you do it, the more you'll want to do it, like sit in it. But if you did 10 minutes for 21 days, I have a 21-day challenge. I have an online course, very simple to get on and do it on your own and get the support. But after 21 days, you will have extraordinary results, no doubt. Everyone I know who I've taught it to and has done it for 21 days, their life is totally different afterwards. And it's such a joy for me to see people take their power back like that and really open the gates. I mean, if you really want to know who you and what you are and why you're here, the synchronicity method will get you there. You can get a free copy on my website. If you go to thesynchronicitybook.com, you can download a free guided version. I also have an online course for $97. You have it for 2 months to practice, and it has all the protocols, all the steps. It really goes into depth, and you get my support and can chat with me about it, because you'll have questions, you'll have experience. It's an experiential process. So once you start doing it, you're going to wake up, you're going to have a lot of synchronicities, you're going to start feeling things, and that's when it gets really exciting and fun. And you'll start gathering your soul group.
Okay.
Well,
Thank
now
you
tell
very much.
people, wait, tell people where they can find you online and all that.
She just did.
Yeah, so
No, but I mean,
the
that's the
synchronicity book,
Okay.
yeah, the synchronicitybook.com is my primary site right now,
Great.
where all that information is.
Uh-huh.
And on Instagram, you can follow me on my world tour at know
Okay.
the self, THE,
Okay,
know
yes.
the self. Yeah,
Okay, very
All
good.
right.
Wow, this has been great, Amelie.
Yeah.
super
Eon.
fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right.
Yeah, so fun to be with you
and,
guys again.
and enjoy your travels around the world in this year. This should be interesting for you.
Thank
And
you so much.
I'll send you the link when John sends it to us, so you'll have it to.
Perfect.
you
Yes,
want.
I will share
Okay.
it with my
Great,
Okay.
great
network.
talking to you again.
Yeah, great
You
talking
too.
to you.
So fun.
Take care.